What's going on, people? Hope you're all well. So I'm just going to go over quickly why today I was confident in the buyers. So if you're in the order flow group, then you'll have seen recently that we've got the overlay of the 4-hour imbalances on the lower time frame charts. I've got them applied to the 15-minute and the 40T. And basically, for those that aren't in the order flow, what that is on that, nope, not that one. On the high time frame charts, we have the imbalances that represent, basically, it shows you where passive players are sat, large quantities of volume, basically. And obviously, if you're staring at the 15-minute and the low time frames all day, it can be quite easy to forget that they exist. So having them pop up on the 15-minute is really handy. And as a result of having them there, I've noticed a lot more sort of how they correspond to basically the higher time frame structures, so, and how we can utilize them pretty much. So first thing is, with the absorption lines and whatnot, it'll either become support and resistance, or it's where a passive buyer has been present before, and when it gets to that level, it'll either become support or resistance, or they'll continue on. So this was when was this? What day are we on? I think that's Friday, isn't it? Yes. 27th. No, Monday. Right, forgive me. Don't know what day it is. So this was yesterday. And obviously, following NQ, we've been bullish for a while, and we've come to the top. Printed some delta held pattern in here and then sold off, and within that we have a buyer trapped at the top level, meaning they've not managed to push. A lot of buyers trapped at the top, and then sellers have pushed down. It's hit this level and sellers have continued to push, and at that point it's coming down into the buy bases and it's retraced, come back up to the buy imbalance, and as I've annotated there, buyers have then jumped ship, and sellers again from that same level have continued to push down. So if you caught this down move, you could see, this will have printed alongside these buy order blocks. Prices pulled back, buyers have failed to take it any higher. You can use other confluences like the VWAP and whatnot as a confluence that it's going to continue pushing down. And then, as usual, it's come down, swept the bottom of the range, come back up, giving buyers one last chance to get out, and then it's sold off from there, and a buyer's printed, it's not done anything, and we've gone down. Now, if you look at this whole range, I was chatting with Uzi about this before, when we've basically had like a liquidity flip, right? So buyers are no longer able to push, sellers have then started taking over. Buyers had a chance to push, didn't have the minerals, sold off, came back, could have pushed again, didn't have the minerals, sold off, done a model 3 or whatnot. So we flipped there. Does that mean that now we're completely bearish? No, it doesn't. If we come to the higher time frame, we haven't broken any major structure. If anything, this is just a pullback, and it's a pullback to where the lowest buyers in the range. So these imbalances represent levels where previous buyers are. So basically, what you can take away from this is, it's not like, let me try and whip something up real quick. So bullish structure, Cool. Bing, bang, boom. Not very clean, but we'll run with it. So in this example, this isn't going to work. Let me just try and... So we can see if I can use some arrows. Bullish push, pull back, where to, lowest buyer in the range. Push, pull back, where to, lowest buyer in the range. Big push, pull back, where to, lowest buyer in the range. If we're maintaining bullish structure, this is just profit taking, and where are they going to pull back to? Lowest buyer in the range. So with that, it's just a huge plus. If you've got order flow, basically you can see where the large buyers are, and that is obviously a huge advantage, because you basically know where to buy from. So having the overlays, which I've got to take credit for, it was my idea, and it's a fucking fantastic idea. Having the overlays on the charts in real time is brilliant, because this is the lowest buyer in the range that you've seen on the 4 hour. We've come straight down into that AOI, and then from that we'll then look at the 40T. We've set the beginning of manipulation delta held here, or delta held. Let me annotate that. So I had it in mind that it would be a manipulation delta held. So sweep the low, sweep the high that created the low, and then pull back. It then takes out the low of that delta held pattern. You can see all of the trap sellers there, and then it's also in alignment with the 80T base, which is this here. So at the start of the session, I just came in and marked the sort of mitigation levels for the 80T, and that gave me this area of interest. I'll just change the color of it so you can see what it is. Change it to yellow. So boom. So I've got an 80T base in the yellow, and then we've got a 40T delta held. I was confident that because this is the lowest buyer in the range, I was confident to take buys from here. So although I kind of made a meal of it, my first entry was down at the 60 level. So my first entry was here, rode this up, took partials, and then on the open I took another entry because it was another manipulation delta held. So I am on demo at the moment because I'm really just trying to dial in on my system, and I've spent entirely too much money blowing accounts. So I've just taken a step away to refine my system, and honestly it's done me the world of good, because now, rather than aimlessly trading and blowing accounts and whatnot, I'm actually hitting 100-point moves, 150-point moves pretty much every day. So, and that's as a result of taking a step back, stopping the focus on the money, and then rather focusing on the system and the art of trading, and obviously that's what makes us profitable. So let's take a look at the entries. Yeah, I did what I shouldn't have done, which is dropping down to the 5T, because I've been trading London, and the 5T is really good for London, but for New York it's a little bit hectic. So I jumped in, I took a flurry of losses. I was sort of distracted before. I was talking to someone, so I jumped in without sort of getting my head in the game, and that's why I took a couple of losses before any structure had formed. Let's just get rid of those real quick. Not the DOM. Yep. So again, it's a manipulation delta held. That's your mitigation. Sweep the low. Now, the whole time I had in mind, I was like, oh, you should just wait for the low to be swept. But obviously, saying something and doing something is two different things. So it cost me. I put myself in a $500 hole before I even realised where I was at. But we caught a stonker, so it's all good. So that's like the main thing I'm working on at the moment, is not putting myself in a hole prior to then hitting a zinger. I'd rather just, you know, I should have made $1,000 today. Instead I only made like $571. It should have been over $1,000, but hey ho, it's demo, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's your delta held manipulation setup. They go to set up a delta held, sweep the low, take out the high that created the low, and then in this case manipulation delta held, it will come and sweep the lows and then push up from there. Now, I usually enter on the 5T for the manipulation delta held, and what I will enter on is the first one up, one down candle after the manipulation. I'm, as I say, usually use a 5T for London, so I can't remember what chart I executed on, but for New York I would recommend the 10T, because in this case the first one up down would be here, and then wherever your first take profit is, it's 100 points, and it's a 1 to 6 pretty much, 1 to 5.5, and you can go to break even pretty much after the first push. And the best thing about the manipulation delta holds is you can move to break even pretty easy, pretty early, and then just leave it, because it's not going to come back to your stop loss if you're entering in the right place, or it's not going to come back to your entry, should I say. So yeah, I took partials initially, not that it matters. So I have TP1 at 50 points, and then TP2 at 100 points. I was aware that the open was coming up, so around, I think it was just past 50 points, I took my TP1, and then I closed another just after that. And then I was gonna call it a day, but on the open, sellers aggressively pushed down, and then they printed another manipulation delta held, so same pattern as before. I see it as a manipulation delta held anyway. Sweep the low, sweep the high that took out the low, and then come down for the free and sweep the lows of that first move. And then from there it prints a 5T delta held as well. Yeah, so come down, manipulate the lows. First, my entry should have really been here, but at the time it was moving pretty skitty, and I may have been sensible enough to take that on the 10T. Yeah, it looks like it. So first one up, one down entry, same again. I entered with just 2 contracts because I'd already made some money and didn't want to put myself in a hole, and I'm cautious. It's my first time like taking a retest. I've only just caught those initial moves so far, so I was just in, realised it hadn't done my my brackets, my bracket orders, my take profits, just because I've entered with only 2 micros and it's set up for 5, so I just hit $100 per micro and then just close that first one, and then targeted the VWAP, and then took my partials up at the top there. So yeah, so I'm probably cleanest on the 40T. Let's blow this up a bit. And that's the 80T base as well. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of confluences really, each time. So dropping from top to bottom, 4-hour imbalances, lowest buyer in range, manipulation delta held, caught the first move, which is technically a high risk, and then that sets the intent for the open, which gave us our pullback. That pullback to the 80T base that it had just created, and at that point buyers continued to push. That's not set up on there. Alright, no worries. Do it on the 1 minute then. Not as clean. That's why the T charts are the best. It's just so clean. Messy, messy, messy. So yeah, pull back into the green box, which is the lowest buyer in the range. All the delta held stuff that I've just shown you on the low time frames. Entry, push up. Targeted the 150 area because that is the second highest or second lowest buyer in the range, so that's another buy imbalance over to the left, buy imbalance from the 4-hour. So again, buyers will either push from there, or it'll become, as it did in this case, resistance, and then they'll pull back. Sellers will get aggressive, which happened in this case, but they pull back to an 80T base. They pulled back, and it was a 40T, if I remember correctly. Not quite. On one of the time frames. No. Yeah, on the 15 minute, the resistance turned support, so I noticed that as well. Just lots of lovely little nuggets, all pointing towards it doing what makes complete sense. So yeah, I'm aware that that was a bit all over the place, so if you have any questions or whatnot, or want me to go into anything in specifics, then either pop a comment or DM me, and I'll see if I can break it down in any more detail. So yeah, one last thing I do want to touch on, because it is really useful. I'll just do it here. I sort of explained it in the video, but I want to make it like abundantly clear, because the hardest part after entering a trade is like gauging, have I got it right, is it going in my direction, etc. And across all the time frames on the order flow chart, you enter here, it's pushing on up, and as I say, this buy imbalance is an area where a passive buyer previously was. When it gets to that point, they're either going to push up, or it's going to become resistance and it's going to drop down. So it's a good confluence on the lower time frames as well, because when it gets to that point, you can anticipate a reaction. You're either going to see buyers getting trapped in this case, and then a pullback, so it's a good opportunity to take profit and look for a re-entry if that's what you're up to, or you know, you'll see an explosive move up from there. So it's just something to journal, something to keep an eye on. But yeah, those have been my main takeaways from the past few weeks: the 4-hour imbalance overlays, and then just the absorption lines as before, acting as support and resistance. And then also, because they are limit orders, pretty much, when it gets to that point, it sometimes leads to a, or oftentimes leads to a explosive reaction. So you'll sit, I'll just wrap this up real quick. So when you first enter, what you'll notice is there might not be a great deal of passive volume up passive orders. It's just purely aggressive orders, moving price up. That's when price is quite, slow and sketchy and immature and whatnot. And then when it hits a limit order, that's when it'll shoot up. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Say you enter down here, and maybe you're not sure because price is like grinding up slowly and it's just a bunch of aggressive orders and sellers look quite aggressive and blah 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 blah. It's then when it gets to an absorption line that it will shoot upwards. So, it's definitely an AOI to keep in mind once you've entered a trade, to be looking for a reaction from. They'll either trap buyers there and pull back, so you can take profit if you're in on the first leg, if you want to, or if you've got a good entry, you can just hold and you get the idea. So yeah, a bit more of a ramble on the end there, but hopefully that's insightful. Again, any questions, etc., just shoot me a message. Appreciate it.